Greetings tonight, everyone. Thank you for joining me tonight in a little tea and a chat. We are going to discuss what it means to be an outsider, starseed, any kind of identities that you may resonate with and embrace as who you are. But there's something that I think the public should know if they don't identify with those labels. Many people think that those that identify themselves as otherkin or starseeds or just somebody that has maybe a different element to them than just being human. Many people think that it's for attention, or it's because they want to stand out, or they want to be not seen as normal. And the reality of it, I can tell you about probably 98% of those that identify as otherkin, starseeds, elven souls or fae souls, whatever it may be, if you're not identifying yourself completely as human, it's probably a very big chance that these people will actually wish that they didn't feel that way, that in no way are they looking to stand out, or they're not looking to seek for attention. A lot of these otherkins ended up having like documentaries or just short little films on them on YouTube. And so more and more people are hearing about otherkins, the girl who thinks she's a cat and some other types of otherkins that are on YouTube, especially me with my film that I did. And when people look at those, they think, oh, this person just wants attention, when really it's actually a call out into the world to be heard, to not feel alone and connect to others. So this is the really interesting thing about these particular types of souls, and why it causes such mental anguish at times, is that they in no way are looking to try to stand out. They are actually looking to fit in. But the problem is that there's something within them, in their mind, that makes them feel different, makes them feel like they don't really belong. And there is a truth to it in the behaviors, in the types of interests that they have. Because when you look at society, if you put everything on kind of like a graph, basically on a line, and you have people that do normal societal things like go to bars or go shopping at malls, these types of normal type of societal behaviors, there are some people in this world that don't fit on that line. They don't like to partake in normal society behavior. And actually, it causes a lot of anguish, and it's not something that they're proud of, or that they wish that, that they had, that they're not really looking to be so different. So that is the whole thing about identifying yourself in this way, is that you are caught up in a cycle of pain in a way, because the moment that you try to identify yourself in that way, the more you feel isolated from others and separated. Now, I am going on about 15 years or so, probably, about feeling like a starseed. And so what I will say is that in my younger days, I used my starseed identity to feel very different or separated from others, and it caused me a lot of pain and separation and feelings of depression. And as I have gotten older and a little bit detached from this world, I have started to feel more connected to the universe, and especially nature. So what that has done for me is it has alleviated me from the problem to try to fit into society any longer. And instead, I fit into the universe, as you see behind me. And I picked this background tonight because I thought it was appropriate to keep it in mind as we hear each other's stories, as we discuss this idea of, feeling alone in the world, feeling like you don't belong on Earth, and all these types of ideas that cause people problems and pain in their life. I want you to remember the big picture of the universe. And so that's why it's behind me tonight. So that is our big secret, I would say. For those that don't identify themselves that way, never heard the terms, may come across Otherkin videos and think, oh, this person just wants attention. When in actuality, this actually means that they're really just kind of calling out to others, and they really don't want the attention, but it's more about being pushed or feeling a need to put themselves out there into the world. And I've done a lot of thinking of why Otherkins are coming out more and more, why we're seeing a lot of YouTube videos about them, and Starseeds, how they're coming out with their stories. And once again, if you're not identifying with that, you're going to look at those people maybe in a negative light. But if you are somebody that identifies with that, then you will understand where they're coming from. And I have done some thinking, and I've realized that the reason why we are seeing so many videos about Otherkins and Starseeds is because we are in a great time in humanity where our experiences of who we are is actually evolving. It's growing and it's expanding. And Otherkins represent that in a very big way in the world. If we did not have anything like Otherkins in this world, and if everybody always kind of fit the norm or fit nicely into society with each other, even though we all are very strange and we all have our own type of uniqueness, if there wasn't those that are the outliers, the real outsiders that really stand out in society, then we wouldn't really know what norm is, or we wouldn't really know where is the limit, where can we go, and where can we go beyond even that identity. And so that's what's happening. We have Otherkins and Starseeds and outsider kind of soul types, that don't fit into the normal human category, such as myself. And what we're doing is we're embracing that part of ourselves, as painful as it is to come out that way into society, in order to push society into a realization about themselves in a collective manner. So that is what I have figured out our roles are. Now, I put on my thumbnail here about, where do we belong? Where do starseeds belong on Earth? Where do we fit in? And the truth of the matter is that you're not going to fit into the old society. You are here as a new soul in terms of a newer identity, or maybe one of really ancient past, that is coming out and is embracing a higher dimensional reality of the human soul and showing where the human can go. And so where do we belong? We belong right here on Earth during this time. And I absolutely do believe that. And when you embrace that about yourself and you stop wanting to fit into society, trying to figure out your place all the time, and start to focus on your individual place within the universe, that's when I have personally felt the mental healing of identifying in this kind of way and feeling so separated from others. So, like the other video on mental healing, I talked about how I really enjoy watching movies that focus on this particular topic. And one of the movies that I think is really the best example of this type of identity in society is Powder. And Powder is one of those movies that I watched a long time ago, and I decided, I'm going to watch this again. And I've had just such a different experience watching it this time. And I want to give you a quote here. I think Powder is a great movie for many reasons, in the idea that it shows kind of this power that humans may be able to harness as a potential. It's a story, if you don't know, about a albino boy who was born during a lightning storm. And he's born into the world completely very pale, and his nickname became Powder. And it's about his story of trying to fit in and realizing, what his powers are and what he is here on Earth to do. And one of the most heartbreaking things about this movie is that you see that there's actually not a place for Powder in the world. And the idea that the way that he thinks and the powers that he has, and the way that he kind of stands out from society, he doesn't quite fit in to school, high school, which is what he was trying to do. And although he can make friends by really open-minded people that are just, falling in love with him and the idea of who he is as a very kind and intelligent being, he's not able to fit into society without getting stares and looked at wherever he goes. And so it's heartbreaking to see that. And some of you may have heard about some of the more extreme otherkin out there, the Dragon Lady. She has a YouTube channel if you want to check her out. I said there was a girl who acts like a cat, and she's been in a couple otherkin composition videos. So there are a lot of extreme cases. There is, I think, Louis from Spain, I believe, who went through surgery to look like a high elf or some type of like a mythical elven creature with really long pointed ears, prosthetic ears he wears, but he also has gone through a lot of cosmetic surgery to enhance his features to look like what he perceives as his elven self. And you don't have to spend money to do that, but it helps those types of souls that come into this world and they feel very different. Sometimes they have to align to how they feel. And I would say that's probably how a lot of trans people feel. When you come into the world and you contain this different type of energy within you because you represent the new age, then there's probably this desire to try to align to it. Because if we don't feel like ourselves on the inside and the outside, if it's not balanced, we feel like something's off. And that's kind of what happened to me. It's like, I feel like an elf on the inside. And so I started to really express my elven soul on the outside as much as I can. And I feel happier doing it now. As when before I used to dress like a normal American woman, and, I would just go out and I would, I always like to look good, but I really tried to just kind of hide that part of me that always loved the elves and fairies. And now I don't hide that. And so here is a quote from Powder that I think a lot of people can learn from. There's a lot of wisdom within the movie. Powder said this to a girl that he was getting to know. Her name was Lindsay, and they were sitting at the fair together. And she asked him, because he has this ability to look inside of people and read what they're feeling. And she asked him, she's like, well, what does inside of people look like? And he said, inside most people, there is a feeling of being separated from everything. And they're not. They are part of absolutely everything and everyone. That's because, and then she said, well, You mean I'm supposed to feel like I'm part of somebody on death row, or a fisherman in Italy, or that tree over there? Like, I mean, that's hard to believe. That's what she said to him. And he said, well, that's because you have a spot, and he points to her brain, where you can't see past. Grams and Grand had that spot that taught them that they were disconnected from everything. And then Lindsay says, so that's what they would see if they could, that they are connected. And then Powder says, well, and how beautiful they really are. That is, there is no need to hide or lie, that it's possible to talk to people without lies, sarcasm, or exaggeration, or hiding who you are, or any of the things that people use to confuse the truth. So I really, truly feel that why we really are maybe more and more seeing people coming out and expressing themselves in maybe not so normal ways. And people always want to make comments that this is a liberal type of movement, that it's about the liberals. It has nothing to do with politics. It's about the soul. It's about the human consciousness evolving, and we starting to take on more identities, because the universe is so vast. And I really, truly believe that. My wish is that we live in a world in the future where people can express themselves as they feel inside. If they feel their dragon soul, let them express it. You know, as long as nobody is hurting each other in their forms of expression, meaning physically, you know, for an example, if you want to be a dragon, you know, if you're trying to put people on fire because you say that's a form of my self-expression, that's when we're entering the lines of morality and self-expression, and we're blurring those lines, and we can't do that. Otherwise, then there are moral consequences to those choices, and that's not really wisdom, and that's not really the consciousness evolving. But what is consciousness evolving is allowing ourselves to be who we truly are on the inside, and showing that on the outside as infinite types of expressions that there are out there in the universe. I believe that that is what we are going to see on Earth, and that humans are going to evolve many, many years in the future, possibly biologically, but more sociologically, in the idea of accepting one another for all the multidimensional aspects of one another. And I believe that in the future, we are going to see a reflection of that, where people are going to dress as they want and express themselves as they want. And some people may think that it's a political movement, but that's just because they're not really thinking with their heart. And like Powder said, there's a spot that they're not able to get past and see in their mind. There's something that's not allowing them to, you know, open, you know, that place within their mind and see the truer nature of reality in terms of the universe being so vast, and human consciousness representing that vastness of space. And that is absolutely what I believe. And it is painful, and I'm going to hear from your stories to hear about your experiences, because I really want to give you all a chance to put down what you have been feeling, what makes you feel very different. So I will just say, for me personally, like I said, I'm starting to feel more, as I have come into my own and realized and remembered my connection to everything, as Powder spoke about in the movie. I'm connected to everything in the universe. And so human relationships are not as important to me as my feelings of connection to nature and to, you know, the stars around me and universe. However, I absolutely do believe in how valuable human connection is. And so there's always this ability to try to balance that within my life, but it's not something that I'm constantly seeking. And that's something that some of my friends in the past have said, and I'm sure even some friends now would say that I'm hard to get a hold of, or I'm hard to stay in contact with. It's not because I don't care. It's not because I don't think of you. It's because I'm already connected to you. I'm connected to everything in the universe. And therefore, I don't seek connection outside of myself too much in terms of other souls. I just kind of feel naturally connected to my friends. And I have this one wonderful friend that has remained a friend for a very long time. I would say two, I do. And one thing that I always appreciate is that these two ladies, we can go for years of not talking. And then one day we'll just call each other and everything is the same. There's no hard feelings. They understand, and it's just a joy to just share with each other what we have been up to. And so I guess that's something that kind of makes me feel a little different from society that tries to, I think sometimes make you feel like if you're an outsider or if you're alone, it's a negative thing. Whereas I feel like sometimes it's a positive thing. The only problem is that somebody who stands out too much to others may be made fun of and mocked. And especially you'll see this in high school, and you see that sadly with the movie Powder as an example of that completely mirrors reality. I mean, completely. That if you stand out and are seen as weird or strange to others, like you just don't have the same interests as others, you're not into the high school sports team, you're in the corner reading some big book and people notice that, or your interests are different in terms of what you think and how you feel and express yourself in terms of your opinions about things. And sometimes that can be different, especially if you are a new soul in terms of kind of a fresh eye, a new perspective in the world to open up the minds of others. You may bring in new perspectives that people are just not prepared to see. And that is a burden on some of our really new souls, like our violet children and crystal children that have come into the world, and they are just very, very different and sometimes have a hard time fitting in. And at the same time, they haven't yet really embraced that it's okay if human society doesn't accept you as who you are. The stars in the universe do. They shine down upon your face, and you could feel the air around you embracing you. You don't have to look for human connection or humans to understand you. Yes, you are human, but I know, and you know what I'm talking about, that there's a part of you that feels different from other humans in the way that you would behave. Like you would never mock or bully others because you were born with a consciousness to help move forwards from the bullying and move forwards from the mockery and into a new world that doesn't have that any longer. So before I go on to the chat and let you guys give me your stories, I wanted to read you two things. This is a book that doesn't work on green screen. This is a book called The Extraterrestrial Essence, and it was given to my dad. And it's a very strange book. I don't really know if it was ever published because it seems that it says this book is intended as an overview of primary universal activity. And there is a publishing name here, Whirling Vortices, Clarence, Iowa. I've never even heard of that publisher. But this is about a man that was around in 1932, okay? And he made predictions on the way that human society would be. He was a very spiritual man, and everything was kind of documented about the things that he said. And this is one of the things that he talks about in a chapter called Our Psychic Dilemma that I wanted to read to you. When we expand our consciousness to receive more and more impressions during ordinary thinking, we ultimately tend to expand our psychic ability to embrace all the impressions to be received. Training of the physical senses is but the beginning, with our greater response, more expanding, more inclusive, more embracing. We develop a sense perception which is completely in touch with things, including pulsing, spiral, spiritual energies. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about with this is that his idea of the universe and where humanity is heading is about expanding our consciousness more to include more variety and to include more abilities, such as the physical senses opening up further and allowing you to, taste better, smell better, have heightened physical sensory experiences, and lead to the psychic ability and the enhancement of those innate gifts within all of us. And so he was tapping into what was definitely is happening now, and he was sensing that that was happening. Now, if we take in that word inclusiveness is the idea of including all things into our reality and accepting it as one, as unity. So if we have those who think they're a cat, or somebody who thinks they're an elf, or somebody who thinks they're a dragon, in terms of having a soul and a part of their consciousness that is inside of a human vessel in order to walk around society and fit in, blend in as much as they can until they want to really self-express themselves, then inclusiveness is not the job of the outsider, but inclusiveness is the job of the ones that are not on the outside, but are looking at the outsiders. And so in many ways, the Starseeds and the Otherkins and the ones that feel like they don't entirely feel like they belong in the human population, in many ways they are the lesson and the mirror for society to learn how to embrace and include more types of identities as part of the universe, as part of the all. And it's being reflected on Earth as above, so below. So all the life forms that we can think of in the universe will one day be reflected on Earth. And we already are seeing that with our imagination, art, and the games that come out, and the movies, and the entertainment world is bursting with ideas of the vastness of self-expression of the universe. And so now we are having souls that are taking on, and I'll say this, feeling a drive within themselves to take on an identity. Something calls to them. And my friends, I would say it is the universe calling to you, calling to all of us to embrace the nature of inclusiveness and to bring more unity on Earth in terms of showing the multidimensional realities that we all relate to and connect to. And Edgar Cayce, a famous prophet, psychic and a prophet in terms of predicting the future events and being able to read energies and seeing where humans were on their way towards. I wanted to leave with this quote here to think about. He said this: "The preparation for tomorrow is builded on today. Those experiences we have now are used for the growth of mental and spiritual attributes of the future. Of course, we can choose not to develop them, just as we can choose to shut off sounds audible to our normal hearing. It is our will, which, after all, is paramount in our progress, that the will must be the ever-guiding factor to lead man on ever upward, was the understanding to be gained from our study of the planets." That was his part of his prediction in terms of, I mean, there's so much more I can read. It's a great book. It's called Edgar Cayce, Modern Prophet. Wonderful book. And it's all about his predictions that he made about the world and where humanity was going. And he did not believe completely in the idea that humans evolved from an ancestor of apes, but was a product of a variety of different star beings and races, just as the Palladium message in 1975 was all about, the Billy Meyer context report. So really, I think that we're getting a very small glimpse of what the future holds. And if you are a soul like me that feels a little bit on the outside, try to find your place within this world. Don't wait for others to accept you. And if you meet a soul that is just so open-minded and they see the beauty within you and they see what you have to offer, then that is something that you should cherish, because it's not easy to find. One thing that I can say, Edgar Cayce made it a lot more clear in the idea of a new soul versus an old soul in terms of consciousness levels. So here's the difference when it comes to new souls in the way that they behave. Those are the ones that bully others. Those are the ones that make fun of others just because they're different. They are new souls in terms of they have not gone through, and not even gone through, but they have not learned from past experiences yet to make them masters of learning wisdom, of love, of connection, and unity to others. We must have compassion for those souls that have not quite learned in their previous lifetimes, and in this lifetime, we might be able to help them in the way that we respond to them when we see their bullying and their mockery. They have not learned in the past lifetimes. And if you're somebody that in this lifetime, you know that that is not the way to be, and that if anybody is different, that should be embraced or celebrated in some kind of way, but never made fun of, never mocked or bullied. And if you feel that way, it is because in your past incarnations, in your past lives, you have already learned that valuable lesson of connectivity and unity. And so now you're just living your life, experiencing that and watching yourself coming through those realizations of where you are, being that person that is so accepting and so tolerant of others. So it's a delicate line, because we have to have tolerance and understanding for those that will make fun of otherkins, will make videos about them, and will, put them on the stake. We have to understand where they are coming from. This is a new experience for them. They are not They have not had the previous lifetimes that have prepared them to meet a soul like you. And that's how I see it now. And I understand. So what do? We move on. We live our life in the best way we can as otherkins, as different, unique souls, and we do what we do best. And we just be ourselves. And we be our best selves we possibly can be, to the point where we are not hiding, but are fully expressing ourselves. What we are on the outside aligns to the inside. And when you do that, you reach a soul fulfillment that you have lived your life in aligning to the way that your soul was meant to express itself from the universe as part of the collective, to do a particular role, maybe a building the inclusive thoughts in other people's minds, or helping to expand their consciousness by bringing forth a little bit of the odd, the magical, the enchanting on Earth again. So I hope that this kind of helped you and understand where you can put yourself in terms of, if you feel so different, embrace that difference and allow yourself to pull back and feel connected to the whole universe, so that you don't even care if you don't connect to the human society and population. But also understand that everybody is different. Everybody is unique. And even though you may feel very different and separated, like Powder said, realize that everybody at some point in their life, and some people feel it all the time, will feel alone or feel separated. It's just the way that we are. We are fragmented parts of the prime source. And until we get back to prime source together, then we're going to feel different and separated from one another. Until that time, when all is rejoined back with one. And I'm not so sure that that would happen on a collective level, but more an individual one. It's about you feeling back with everything, and then your reality will start to mirror that thought within your mind. So let's go to some stories. Tell us about, how you've been feeling and how you have gotten over the feeling of loneliness and feeling like, you just don't belong in humanity. So let's see. Yes, Gavan and everybody. Thank you so much for joining in. Princess Quill, what are violet children? So violet children are just like we have indigo children, and just like we have the idea of crystal children, violet children just represents the crown chakra. So if you think about the idea of the light spectrum representing consciousness levels, and different consciousness levels representing different ages of humanity, because the indigo children represent the third eye, they are the ones that see through the illusion of separation, see through the illusion of control and domination, and they are known as kind of the old system busters, and they break down the old systems and they bring in kind of the new. Now, this has been written about by several psychics, and energetically, I would say that they're right on, intuitively, just understanding the way that the chakra levels are represented by colors, but those chakra levels as an ancient wisdom represent different consciousness levels. So violet children are after the blue ray and the indigo children, and that is divine love. So those children that come in are those that don't understand why people hate each other. They constantly maybe spouting words of wisdom about unity and love and connecting to everyone, because the crown chakra represents that enlightenment and divine connection to all things, and that's what represents the unconditional love. So that's the idea of the indigo children, the violet children, and the crystal children are kind of the amplifiers after the violet wave of consciousness. And then that is kind of the new age spectrum that we're in. Those souls in combination, the indigo, the violet, and you don't just stay at those places. You can be born at different levels and go up and down depending on your life choices and what you focus on. But basically, those souls represent the new age for mankind, because whereas the lower chakras represent, power and stability, and when you think about the human consciousness connected to the root, connected to the sacral, sex and reproduction, connected to the solar plexus, self-esteem and self-worth. And then you have the heart chakra, which is the green. And those souls, I would say that they also represent the new age. However, we are out of the green spectrum. When I was born, I noticed that most people were in the blue, and were kind of waking up into the higher stages of consciousness. But the heart chakra opening also was very important. And I would say that the fairies and the elves represent that heart center, green nature. It's all connected. And so that, I hope, answers your question. It was a very long, drawn out one, but hopefully you understand that now, Princess Quill. And I would say, in terms of looking at it in the way that you, like how old you are, like I can't necessarily say like all people born in the 80s are indigos, but it's about your particular birth. And when you came in, what consciousness spectrum did you come in to represent in this world? So I hope that made sense. Like I came born into the indigo spectrum and consciousness, although I already had all the other consciousness spectrums within me from past lives. I went through the root all the way up to the green, which is probably why I felt like an elf in my past life. And then now I'm representing more the indigo, and I've also moved into violet. So you can go up and down yourself depending on your focus and your personal discipline. So yes, Alexis, thank you. I think it's another classification among indigo, crystal, rainbow. Yep, you got it, and golden. And then Chris Aerosmith, as a child at school, I was the outsider, a favorite target for bullies. Now I forgave them and look at them as unenlightened and scared. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it really does have a lot to do with fear. And I think that, fear of the unknown, fear of someone being different. And some people are just not going to like you, and that's okay. Not everybody has to get along in terms of, how they feel about each other, but it's really your choice of how you respond to it. And I just think that, in the future, if humanity plays its cards right, we won't have such things as bullying. To me, when I see a vision of the future and human civilization, if it truly evolved into the way that I see it as a potential, then there would not be such things as bullying. Like people would be too aware of each other's feelings to even do that to each other. And I think that we're starting to see more and more of that. But, we have still a lot of immature souls in that way, that they're still learning. But I'm talking maybe hundreds of years from now. I would say maybe 200, 500 years from now. I think bullying and treating each other badly in terms of immaturity, like acting like an immature soul and displaying your immaturity, will be obsolete, because it seems that most humans would evolve to the level, and if they didn't, then there would be some form of rehabilitation that would be more energetic work, and so possibly they wouldn't be that way for very long, and they would learn quickly. That was just kind of a strange vision of the future there, but it kind of popped in when you were talking about that, because I do feel that people won't have to go through that if we keep on this kind of pathway that we're going right now in terms of evolving ourselves. Bella, it still bothers me that people refer to me as their hippie friend, like I'm just a silly child. Yeah, I mean, hippie, I don't know, sometimes I feel like a hippie is positive things in terms of, the way that hippies were known as love and light and wearing flowers in their hair and not giving a care and listening to music all the time. There's some really positive attributes about hippies, but I know that some people see a negative connection with them. That's such a strange word, because it has so many different levels to it. I mean, I guess if anybody ever calls you a hippie, then just be like, how am I a hippie? If you want to see their perceptions of you and then maybe have a conversation with them and help them maybe get more educated on who you are as a person and how you're different than the hippies of the 60s, or how you're alike in many ways too. Chris Aerosmith, new souls have much growing up to do. So yeah, they do. Absolutely. And I know that's funny, because I've been using new soul in terms of like newness, in terms of perspectives and being kind of a refreshing light to the world. But a lot of those souls that come in to bring newness into the world are actually old souls, and they feel like old souls, and they have this kind of special kind of duty within their mind that they have to follow in order to kind of help others and discover their ability to see themselves in new lights. And so it's interesting that you said that, Bella. It doesn't anger me, but just kind of makes me sad that that's all they see. That's good. Yeah, I mean, anger, what are you going to do with it, right? I mean, get into a fight with somebody and then you're at that level. Here's the thing with when you get angry at somebody who's already angry at you for being different, then you're just meeting them on their consciousness level. And then really nothing can change. But if you meet somebody at a higher level than what they're operating at, they can never hurt you. They can never really affect you. And they'll see that and they'll learn that and they'll have to move on, because something will tell them that you're, coming from a different place than them, and they won't understand you. And then, like physics works in many ways, you just won't have them in your reality any longer. They just won't be able to connect with you, because you'll be operating consciously at a much higher level. Alexis Yang, I've witnessed soft bullying when being in middle school. I never liked to judge people, make fun of people, or worse, bullying. I find it very ugly and unsightly. Yeah, that's because you are a mature soul, so you know that. Tarja, I'm really happy that I realized my awakening almost at the same time when you made this channel, so I have had support all the time. Good. I'm glad. Yes, I definitely was calling out to others. Not saying that I need, to, it's not like I was looking for others to constantly, be around me. In fact, many of you know, I take a lot of breaks and I'm not constantly on, and it's hard to sometimes find me. I'm not sometimes the best YouTuber in that way. Like, I'm not constantly, 24/7 available, although I do feel a very deep connection to you all, and I do like that feeling and I like to keep it. And I feel like I don't ever want to disconnect from that because it's a great feeling. And I know that it gives me a great feeling as much as it might give you a great feeling, to feel like you're not alone and that somebody understands you. Because when you grow up in a house where people don't understand you, when you grow up in a school and maybe you have only a few friends who get you, then it's hard, to find your place in the world. So I'm really happy to be able to provide that, and in my own strange way. So I'm sorry, I just jumped all the way down here. And who you watched Powder, Chris? That's good. Yes, Powder is. I think it's a great movie. I think that it has a lot of important messages, and I think that it's something that a lot of people that identify as Starseeds or Otherkin, or they should definitely watch a few of those videos that kind of mirror that, so that they understand that there's a place for them in terms of belonging to the universe and not necessarily to human society. And then Bella, I learned very young to hide my true self. So in school, I really didn't show myself until I was much older, all out of fear of bullying. Yeah. And what I've realized is that people will get over it. If you express yourself, either you become a laughing stock in society, like I did when I was wearing, my whole elven outfit and things like that on interviews, or you just simply fade away. People don't really mind anymore, and you just are able to be free to live your life in the way that you really want. And I feel like I've gotten over that hump. Like when I came out and did what I needed to do, it allowed me to free myself. You just have to take that very first step. And then once you do, you find out that it's not so scary after all, or that people don't care as much. And if they do care, well, then you have to have compassion for why they focus so much on you. And then that will make it less of a scary experience and more of just showing you more of your inner truth of where you are. Mr. X has ... Interesting. No comment? Okay. Bella, I'm not sure if it's my anxiety or what, but it's like I have days that I love my weirdness and I'm not shy about my beliefs, but others I still question why I have to be so different. Yeah, it's hard with like anxiety or social anxiety, because then you're over analyzing what people think about you, and sometimes that fear can be amplified even more. But you just have to shut those voices out if you can, and get more connected to nature, and watch more sci-fi movies with stars and space, and allow yourself to just be free of those voices and just connect to the weirdness within you and feel like it is a good thing. It's helping humanity grow in a new direction, and I really do believe that. And then Muriel, I was bullied all the time, even now as an adult, and by family members. It's so sad when you're an adult. I mean, here I am, I got to my adulthood and I'm still being bullied too. So I understand. And it is something that you just have to take as your challenge. If you are going to come out in this way, if your identity is to be an outlier in terms of where you fit in society, and if you're going to express yourself in a little bit of a different way, it's something that you just have to prepare yourself for, is that you are going to be made fun of by those that don't understand, those that are scared, and those that have not reached a place of higher consciousness within themselves yet. And you just have to see where they are coming from and just love them from there, love them from afar. You don't have to be near them when people are being mean to you and abusing you. Remove yourself from the situation if you can. It's toxic. You really need to charge your own battery and don't let others drain you. And you need to just, be around them as less as you can. Really minimize your time with those that do not understand you, those that are not going to accept you, and make your time more available for those that will. And, that's really important. And so it's just, you got to find a way to get out of those family members, hair, and really, minimize that time with them. Bella, I'd really like to get to a place of pure acceptance. It'll happen over time. The more and more that the funny thing is that the more and more that you come out with yourself, like the more that you dress as you want to dress, buy what you want to have in your home, to decorate, to express your style, act as you want to act, on social media or even in public, the more and more you feel courage to be who you are, because it's experience. And when you gain that experience, you gain this wisdom that there's nothing to fear except fear itself. And that's what helps you reach that place of acceptance, by taking that very first step. If you don't take that first step, you'll never learn to accept yourself. So you have to be able to let go and just embrace the unknown and jump in to who you want to express yourself as fully. Pandora. I went to Baptist Christian church or school growing up and was bullied for wearing too much black and being weird. I learned fast to ignore those who are not open-minded to get past the physical. Oh, yes. I bet. Isn't that strange how I find it really beautiful. I love the goth aesthetic. I think it's really beautiful, and there's a romantic element to it as well with the darkness. But it's funny how I think goths or emos or whatever you want to call them these days, when you're dressed all in black, for some reason, it scares people. And it shouldn't, because it's just an absence of color, really. But for some reason, it scares people. And I think that people who dress like goths, I think that they need to embrace their beauty within, so that when others don't see the outside beauty, or because they seem so scary, then it doesn't faze them. I have a story about that. There was a really great goth bar in my city that I used to love because they played wonderful 80s music. And I would go just to kind of watch other people and dance. And I would see so many interesting types of people there. And they were just like all these really beautiful souls. Like I could just tell, like there was this one man that was having like a religious experience with the music, and he was all dressed in black and stomping around with his boots. And it's just great when you really take the time to observe people that might look different on the outside, and you really take the time to see them for their insides. That's when you see the true beauty. And the problem is that for some reason, people just don't want to take that time. Either they're impatient, they don't have the time, or like I said, they simply were not born with the consciousness embedded to already have that. And they don't cultivate it growing up either. It's part of your home environment as well. If you grow up sometimes with somebody that's very closed-minded, a lot of times children can grow up that way too. Although children don't have to, but it's about personal choice to try to nurture yourself past that. So I'm sorry you went through that, Pandora, but you know you're a beautiful person inside and out now, right? And that's what matters most. Alexis Yang. Oh, you said Bella, me too. Okay, good. I'm glad you're finding connections there. See, that was the whole point to this. Princess Quill, I found my spiritual practice as a pagan and a witch to be very helpful in making me feel less alone. Witchcraft is making a comeback right now, which helps me connect to people on that level. Yes, it's wonderful. When you do certain rituals that call on certain elements of the earth, I mean, that is how you get to feel one with the universe or one with the tree. And, that's something that I think is very valuable in terms of having a practice, a spiritual practice that makes you feel connected to the all, connected to everything around you, and especially nature within Wicca. And if you don't have that spiritual practice, I wonder how people feel and get connected, to the all. They would have to do it mentally. But having a type of spiritual ritual or practice where you can, go to your altar or meditate or do whatever you need to do, go out into the forest, that really does help you to build a bond with everything around you. And no longer does it matter what other humans think of you. Alexis Yang. Yes, and I think it would help me heal and find an opportunity to reconnect to my true essence. Yes, absolutely. What I hope you were responding to the idea of the practice as a pagan or a witch and witchcraft. Let's see. I'll keep on going. And then Marielle, not having people around you can be tough, but yeah, we all have each other. It's true. It's true. And just as Powder said, most people, we always think that we're separated, but there is this connection that we share because we're all just masses of molecules in space. And truly, the electromagnetic waves between our brains and everything we are comprised of, it's all connected. And you can focus on not having that connection, and then that's when you don't feel it, or you can focus on having that connection with others, and that's when you start to feel each other's feelings and think each other's thoughts. And that's how we start to heighten our spiritual connection. Basically, the more that we're talking about spiritual consciousness and all this that we are in the new age, we are going to bring us into that new age experience with the momentum of heightening our psychic abilities just because the very nature of focusing on it. See how that works? So it's good that we talk about it. It's good that we have all these documentaries. I mean, I can't believe how many spiritual documentaries on Netflix it is. It's so exciting for me because I just turn it on and I'm like, wow, we are really in a new age where we just can talk about anything about quantum physics, where if you think about it, we are so privileged because in the past, when you think about kind of the older times, that kind of conversation people were not having unless they were in some secret societies and they had, to be like in a small little group and they had to keep it a secret, like the occult. And now we are in the age when all of that information is out in the open. So anybody who just wants to seek it out for themselves, they can find it very easily. They don't have to belong to some secret organization any longer. We really are in the new times. Alexis Yang. I live in a city, so I get to meet a lot of people sometimes. When you start talking about spirituality with people, you will be surprised about how open-minded they can be. It's my favorite thing to talk about spirituality at a party. That's the only reason why I will go. I am that person that will get into a very deep conversation about spirituality at some party while people are drinking and, just listening to music. And I will have that conversation with people. And it is amazing what you discover. I mean, I have learned and opened my perspectives to other ways of seeing things by just kind of putting myself out there. So I absolutely agree, Alexis. Like, you never know how people feel or think unless you actually take the chance and get to know them. And that is what I really do believe. And if you put yourself out there and they still don't accept you, then, oh well, they're missing out. That's what I would have to say. And then Bella, I really like the vision of the future, the idea of no bullying. Yeah, because you would have to think about it maybe logically, the idea that bullying just would not be something that evolved humans would do, spiritually evolved. If you think about the way aliens are said to be in terms of how they portray themselves in messages to us, they would never bully, they would never ridicule others. They're so past that. That's where humans are developing and are going to go. I 100% believe that. And because I believe that in 100%, that's going to be my reality I will see continue to unfold in my years on Earth. And maybe I'll get to see it even after death. We'll see. Mr. X, you say humans are devolving rather than evolving, it seems. Well, that would be interesting as an argument, because I'm not suggesting that everybody is a reflection of evolution, not naturally. I would say that we have an example of both. It's about balance. So we have some humans that choose to act a certain way, and then they represent regression, right? Going back into the old times and not evolving or staying, within the old systems. And I would say that within those acts and those behaviors, they represent that. But everybody has the same potential to evolve. Everybody carries that energy to expand consciousness. So it's about the individual taking time within their lives to come to some realizations and open their mind, and then they will become that reflection and example of evolution, of spiritual evolution within their lives. But it is really about personal choice. But I would say that on a grand scale, I would say that more people are evolving than devolving. That would be my observation, especially when you look at, just everything on social media in terms of all the articles written and the way psychology is talked about and how quantum physics is talked about and how many spiritual sites there are. I mean, there are so many examples, but although, Mr. X, that might just be my focus. So because my focus is seeing that, then that's going to be more my reality. If your focus is on humans representing a de-evolution or regression, then you're going to see that in your reality. We are always going to see in our reality what we focus on and what we choose to look at. So if you want to see humans showing evolution, then look for the signs of evolution. Look for those little hints, those stories about humans evolving. You got to look for it. If you don't, then you might just be somebody that only sees kind of the negative about humanity. So it's really about what your choice is in terms of where you're looking. Marielle. Yeah, sometimes you get to meet some very interesting people by chance. Yeah, that is one of the benefits of actually going out, right? Instead of just being an introvert at home all the time. Presidential Anna beat. Hippie is a compliment. Only corporate people see it as a negative. I like that. That's good. And that's true. I mean, it's like there's like this division between somebody, I guess, who dances on the grass with flowers in their hair, and somebody who has a corporate job. Why can't you be both, though? That's my whole point. You can always have a hippie spirit also within the corporate, I guess, the corporate world, but although it won't work very well because the hippie won't be very happy having that type of job. But yeah, we really have to get rid of that negative connotation, because I think there's a lot of positives that we can look at for the 60s and what huge kind of spiritual evolution that the 60s brought. Alexis Yang, many people I met were synchronicities. I met some people who are even more spiritually developed than me. Yeah, and they are your teachers. And just as you're going to be a teacher to somebody one day too, when they meet you. I mean, this is the cycle. We always have souls that are representing different levels of consciousness just because of their life choices and their past life choices and what they have incarnated as. And you are somebody else's teacher and somebody else is your teacher, and the cycle continues. It's a beautiful system. Lady Ravenhill, I agree with you that everyone has the same potential and light to evolve. I'm very hopeful for the future, but it really pains me when I meet those who are blocked from truth, light, and empathy. Yes. Yeah, it is really sad, but the one thing that I have gotten over the sadness about is just to know that maybe not in this lifetime they will evolve. Maybe they will, but their consciousness is infinite and they will always learn. They're on a journey to learn. And so you just wish people well and you hope that they do. And one of the things that I've learned is when you have an interaction with somebody like that, you can choose to be a teacher in that moment by the way that you respond to them. If you respond to them with anger or, you try to fight back, then that might not be the best teacher to them. The best teacher would probably be one that acts on a higher level. And then like I think it was Vygotsky. I'm remembering my educational experience here. I think it was Vygotsky. There's this idea in education that if you have somebody that operates at a higher level within the classroom, then you'll have other students around them be raised up to that level because they'll be inspired by it. So that's a lot of times how humans work, is that if you operate at a higher level and you meet somebody who's coming at you at a lower level, just the way that you respond to them with light, truth, and empathy will inspire them. Maybe not in that moment, but it might when they kind of have their self-realization. So that is an opportunity to be a teacher for them in that moment when we meet those people. Miss Nunn, I have been connecting to the universe. She hears me about how lonely I have felt, my questions of where I belong, and not a day later, this video appears. It's all happening for me, loving the video. Good. I'm so happy that you're loving the video, and I hope I pronounce it. It could be Miss No One. Is it Miss No One? Probably Miss No One. And that is a very, it's a true, I think, type of acceptance within ourselves is when we realize how lonely we have been feeling. And there's a lot of power in that when we realize that why you're feeling a certain way is because of the loneliness. And then you could do something about it. You could find movies or books that try to help you out of the loneliness by showing you a character that you relate to. And right now, hopefully I'm being a mirror to you and showing how you can relate to me. And you are not alone. So namaste. I'm glad you did find this. Ruby Lace, I've been feeling the same, feeling like I don't have any friends or any purpose these days. Yeah, it's a difficult thing, and I would say that I've battled this all my life. And even when you have friends, you still might feel alone. There is this part of possibly not just us, but all humans, where there's this compartment where no one knows what's inside of you. And unless you really take the time to show that to others, no one will know. They're not going to read your mind. And it's about finding a person that you can really trust to open that part of yourself up. Sometimes you don't even have to ever open that self, up, but just understand that there's a part of you that will kind of always be alone in that way. And it's not just you, but everybody has that within them. And it's just about connection and building that connection with others who can finally see you. So it'll happen. But like I said, if it doesn't, if you don't meet somebody that you connect to and you feel like you're just kind of in society and you don't really belong, then just think about the universe and just say, well, I belong to the universe. And if you belong to the universe, then your purpose is nothing else except to exist in your form and be who you truly are. And that's really what I believe. Wisdom Wizard, I would like to travel more, but I was very traumatized by some car accidents I've heard of, and it makes me scared. Oh, well, that's something we can talk about on another video, possibly in terms of kind of getting over past memories. The one thing about memories for me, I don't hold any phobias or things that kind of attach me to my past, because I think when you get to a point where you realize that there's no such thing as past, present, and future, and everything simultaneous as one, and you have this kind of awakened experience where you realize like that your past happened in order for you to get to the place where you are today. And so car accidents are scary. I've had them before in the past, but I would say like a bully, a car accident, a bully, something traumatizing can happen to us, but it doesn't have to make us who we are. In terms of, it doesn't have to define us, like what we get involved with in the future. It has nothing to do with our past in terms of, our future is open. And so we have this ability to recreate ourselves. And so if you can move past the past in that kind of way, maybe that can help you. Although, I mean, you could also play it safe and be more cautious, but if it's going to keep you from doing something you love, then I would say, like the Stoics would say, in the idea of there is such a thing as living a life. When you get to old age, you realize that you never really lived your life. So Stoics have this type of motto where they don't fear death itself. They don't fear accidents or death. They fear not living a full life, not really contemplating everything that they wanted to, or not experiencing everything that they wanted to, not investigating and exploring everything that they wanted to on Earth, and getting to that place on their deathbed and realizing that. So maybe that helps. And then let's see, Rain. It is hard to fit in a world where the focus is on how much money you make. I wish that with what is happening with the virus, people will seek connection between one another and love. Absolutely, Rain. That is such a great comment. That is something that makes people feel like outliers. If you just don't have the desire to make a lot of money, and if you just want to be able to work a job that's something that makes you happy, but it's not necessarily something that makes you successful in terms of monetary wealth, that can also be seen as weird. And you see it from your parents. Your parents might not want somebody to be a rock star or try to be a musician because they're afraid that they're not going to make it. And they would rather have them go and be a doctor or a lawyer because they want their child to make more money. But they're missing the bigger picture about success inside, feeling like you have completed your soul expression on earth. That is much more important, I think, than living a life, of getting a success and money. And I absolutely agree, Rain. It's very difficult to try to relate to those that are in the solar plexus, that area there of the the yellow chakra. The solar plexus is where the wealth and the power and the status. So that's third dimensional thinking, right? Because its root is first, sacral is second, third is the solar. And the solar plexus is all about money, power, status, and wealth. And so, yeah, people that are in the higher consciousness, it's just not as important because it's about more soul fulfillment and connection. That's really important, and creativity. But I completely hear you on that, Rain. It is a very hard balance. You have to be able to live, but you might not be somebody that wants to make $1 million. Like, I've never really had those goals. I just want to have a nice little home, a garden, beautiful place to live in, and to be comfortable and at peace. I just want just small things that will make me happy, but I am not looking to make millions. And that's something I've never been about. So, Rain, you and I are one and the same that way. Absolutely. And then I'm so sorry. Here, I'm going to go to the end here. Oh, I see right here. Ruby Lace. Yes, Mariel, I'm super lonely, yet always look forward to going home. Yeah, it is so odd, isn't it? That's so funny. Because, and okay, that's the mind of like an introvert, in the idea that introverts, it's not that we don't want to connect to others. We do, but not all the time. And at times we want that connection. We want to not feel alone. The universe is looking to bring souls back together, I would say, just kind of thinking about the way that energy works. And so we're always seeking to kind of connect to others and be pulled back in. But there's also this other force that is working against us. And it's about separating too. And it's about being ourselves and being separated. So we have this constant pull and connection force. And it is what kind of drives our behaviors at times. And when you're really sensitive in terms of sensing energies in the universe and in the world, we'll just start there, in the world. And if you're an astral empath, you're sensing universal energies. But the idea of kind of wanting to connect to others and then wanting to pull apart, that's kind of the way that energy works in many ways. And so you might be kind of sensitive to that energy. I know I am. And I just love being at home because your home knows you, your books, everything is you. It's all you. And that is true connection. The idea that you have all these books and you have all, your stuff, your clothes, your accessories, your decor, it's all you. And that's when you feel connection to the idea of like, you know who you are, your identity is there, you feel one at home. But when you're out with others, the only thing that you're trying to connect to is to the mind of another person. And they don't completely 100% represent you in totality, but your home does. And so that's why I love being at home too. And I look forward to being at home because I enjoy being reminded of the things that I love and feeling like someone understands me, whether it just be my higher self or my guides or whatever works through my home. Whereas when you're out and about being social, not everybody's going to give you that same connectivity. What are you trying to quit here? Oh, Wizard. Okay. Wisdom Wizard has, do you believe that Middle Earth exists in a different reality and that Tolkien was merely a messenger? I would say that Middle Earth is it's kind of the idea of middle in terms of, like, if you have the idea of heavens and space above, and then you have I guess what Tolkien would say our Earth, like in terms of like hell, a hellish realm or lower dimensions, and then Middle Earth and what he would call Arda is the middle dimension. So both you would have the glimmer of heaven and also the glimmer of hell, and it would play out in terms of good and evil on Middle Earth. But something was always interesting in this book here, Letters of Tolkien. He kept on saying that Arda was Earth. So Middle Earth to him, in many ways, is Earth. So maybe we're supposed to see Earth as having glimmers of heaven and having glimmers of hell, and showing that duality of both of those dimensions. But yeah, he actually called Arda, and he would do it in his letters, Arda/Earth. So I would say Middle Earth is Earth, but in a way that represented kind of where humanity kind of came from, or where it was going and where we're heading in the future, kind of his visions for humanity. He was a very spiritual man in terms of being a Catholic. And so his idea about the second coming was all part of Aragorn becoming king. And, there's a lot of reflection of his spiritual beliefs of what Middle Earth is. Although he didn't want to make it directly an allegory, I would say that you can see Middle Earth as having the dimensions of Earth, the same dimensions of Earth that we have, in terms of having all sorts of different dimensions within it, higher, lower, and having everything kind of all converged here in the middle. Earth, in many ways, is kind of the middle ground, a middle way between heaven and space in terms of higher dimensions and higher realities. But Earth is moving into a higher dimension. That's what the fifth dimension is all about. So we're trying to move into that kind of heavenly space, higher dimension reality, and hopefully leave behind the lower dimensions of hell. I hope that answered your question. I did that completely intuitively, so I'm not sure if that made sense, but I hope it did. And then Ruby Lace, home is where the heart is. Yeah, it's true. It really is. I mean, everything around it's like all mine and understands me because I created it and I bought it. So it's all here. And when I go out into the world, I don't see that. So I mean, home, I think, represents that for all of us. It's a place where we can really feel like we are, we're safe, and, we're at a place where we can feel like we can be ourselves. Rain, Lady Ravenhill, you are so courageous. What did she do? I wish I read that. Oh, I'm going to read it. Quitting my office job. So Lady Ravenhill's courageous move is quitting my office job to move to the mountains and awesome and pursue my art. Made my friends and family very confused and even defensive. They just don't get it. Well, congratulations. I'm so glad that you took that step. And yes, that is going to confuse, people. And I mean, so be it. They will understand. The more that you show that you're truly happy, because here's the thing, your friends and families, if they really care about you, then they're just concerned and they're scared. And when they act that way, that's angry or defensive, they're just scared for you. And if you could just tell them with love, they have nothing to fear and that you are completely confident in your abilities and you're excited to make this new change for yourself, then I think that they'll come around and they'll start to see that you are more happier that way. And that's really, I think, the best way to deal with those that love you, but also don't agree with you. Tell them it's not their choice and that you're happier doing it this way. So yes, that is very courageous. Good job. Wisdom Wizard, I know you don't play D&D, but you may find the core rule books interesting. They talk about some of the same things this channel does. Okay, well, maybe I will take a look at the core rule books. You might have to send me a link, or if you can add it to the comments down below, and I'll take a look. That would be interesting. I want a cottage in a forest, Marielle says. I would love that. It would be beautiful. An English cottage with like a wildflower garden would just be absolutely gorgeous. Morwinden, Lunar Night, welcome. I'm working at an office job with the goal to make an elven eco-village. I plan on pursuing this to help build a safe haven for those with a connection to the Fae. It's years from now, but still, good. That's wonderful. So happy, and you're part of the Elven Spiritual Path, so that's great. We will definitely work with you, and that's some of our visions too. I mean, we really want to build that sanctuary so people can meet, and it could just be a nice place where people can get together that want to, talk about some of the same things. So that's really wonderful that you want to build a safe haven for people. Well, I wish you all the best, and I hope that it definitely comes to fruition, and we will try to support you in that too as well. Wisdom Wizard, I wonder what will happen to all my belongings when I'm gone. It's sad to think they'll all fade away someday. Well, the best belongings are up here, right? In terms of, the memories and what you have learned, what you have gained and your realizations about life. I mean, that's really, I think, the most important things. But yes, I know I have a lot of beautiful belongings, and I think sometimes it is that challenge to detach yourself from them, which minimalism starts to really help you when you start to give it all away and start living with less, which is what I have been working on. And it truly is really an amazing experience to let go of so many physical things that you're attached to and learn that you're not always attached to them, that you can prioritize things that you really need and things that you don't need so much. And then I would say, Rain, it's sad that people consider the four walls we live in as home when Earth is the home of everyone. Yeah, it is. I mean, in terms of being outside, I love it. If I could live outside, I would. And I try to stay outside as much as I can during the day, and at night for my night walks. Yeah, I mean, well, that's why my house looks like the outdoors. I mean, I have branches everywhere. I have so much nature inside, and my husband has been so great about letting me bring it in. But I think that that's the thing, is that it's about just surrounding yourself in your environment that you feel most happy in. And if you can't live outdoors, well, then you can make the outdoors in the indoors. But I agree with you. I would love to live outside. And then Wisdom Wizard. I collect a lot of books and movies, but the wisdom they give me are eternal. Absolutely. They will follow you into your next lifetime. Because movies and books are really just reminders. That's what I think about. It's like, they're mirrors, and they remind you of something that you forgotten, a long time ago, or that you needed to learn in this lifetime. And that's why I really appreciate the entertainment field in that way, because I do believe that they're mirrors to us in society, and they show us things about society that are great and some things that we need to work on. I love that. And then Morwinden, writing is important to help your mind grow and to help ideas come out that may have been hiding. Oh, absolutely. If you ever feel like you are stuck in terms of self-expression, just write. Just write. You don't have to talk to somebody and express yourself, but just write out all your feelings. And that is energy. All your thoughts enter onto the page, and at least they're not bottled inside any longer, bouncing around inside of your body, making you excited or anxious or scared or sad or depressed. If you get it out onto your page in front of you or on your computer, that's why I write, I blog, and I make videos based on getting those thoughts out. They have to come out. If they don't come out, then they end up just driving me crazy inside. And I absolutely believe that self-expression, to get back to the whole topic of Otherkins and Starseeds and outsiders and whatever you want to identify yourself as, you truly are a reflection of self-expression. And self-expression is not selfishness. It is the universe being represented in its infinite forms. And I absolutely believe that we are existence itself, expressing ourselves, learning to take on an identity and to grow with it and let it expand and let it take us onto this whole new portal of experience and existence. So do not hide. Do not think that you're a mistake. Don't think that you are alone, and just realize that you are different, because everybody is different. And it is truly about kind of honing in on your skills, in your differences that make you different, or think differently than others, or act differently than others, and bringing that more to surface and being that representative on earth. And I do believe that, and I hope that more people express themselves in this way. And I really do believe in a beautiful future of a variety of souls, not a future that we would all look the same. I believe in a future that would actually be very much like how we would envision, Star Wars or Star Trek. It would truly be all sorts of different types of beings living together in a advanced civilization. And I really feel that that is where we are heading with the whole Starseed identities and the Otherkin identities. And it is taking us on this momentum where it is going to bring us into a new level of self-expression. And it may scare some people, but it's also going to be magical and enchanting for many others that have no fear. And I'm excited to see what the future brings. I can't wait to see in 20 years how many more, I think, unique souls that we have that come out and express themselves. And I could myself, there's a part of me, I wish that I could like take it up even more of another higher notch, and be like this moon elf, I don't know, alien type of self-expression. Glowing skin and I don't know, costumes and all that. But at some point you have to be comfortable too. And you have to feel like you're fitting into society as much as you can in terms of not making yourself a target, but at the same time, don't ever push your own needs down, and just do whatever feels right for you, and just be who you truly want to be. And that is really beautiful. Something that we learn in all these movies about different types of people. Like there's that Disney movie Stargirl. I watched that the other day. That was interesting, about this girl that acts differently, and she came into her high school town, and basically this is, I did write this down because this is kind of what I'm going to be using for Manic Pixie, because she is basically the poster girl for the Manic Pixie type, in the idea of being a magical character that brings to life others around her. Manic Pixies, they usually come at a time when things are just kind of very boring and there's really no change for the character, and they need some type of stimulation into a new direction. And so the Manic Pixie is introduced as a character that just has a lot of crazy ideas, or they're very different and they're eccentric and they don't care about how they look to others, and they just are themselves, and in some way that inspires those that are around them. So in many ways, the Manic Pixie is much like the Otherkins and the Starseeds, and those that are coming out more with their kind of unusual identities that are attached to their human souls or their human bodies. And that, I think, is something that will be there to change society, because the Manic Pixie character was always introduced to another character that needed a change. And so what is the universe doing? Making these types of souls to bring in new change to society. And you can argue that we make our own souls, but I would say that we're working for a greater collective together, and that we all represent different parts of that collective. And Starseeds just represent that part of the collective that is looking for something new, a new perspective, and something new to happen on Earth, and a new evolution for humanity. And it's really exciting because all Starseeds and Otherkins and those that identify as being something other than human, all you have to do is show up, is be who you are, and don't be afraid. And then you're doing the job that the universe intended for you to do. And I do believe that. So thank you all for joining in. I'm so happy that you left all your stories about your experiences. This is great. And if you did not get into the chat, you can always leave it in the comments for others to see. Give us your whole life story, and if I can, I will respond. But if I don't, I know that there will be a compassionate soul that will respond to you in this community on my channel, and you will not feel alone. So never feel alone. Big hug from one outsider to another. Have a wonderful night, everyone.